welcome back to General Games Legacy Friday Night Magic. We're about to go into round 3 here, and I'm sitting here with Angus McKay, who's once again down here from Canberra.
G'day guys, it's a pleasure to rep the Canberra MTG community. We've got a few people coming down, less than 10, so hopefully we'll be able to rep it hard, but we're planning on making all the top 8s, so that's good.
And it looks like our players are just getting ready here to begin. On the left-hand side of the table, we've got Stephen Meade, who, from my understanding, is on a Abzan Bear deck, and Brandon Owen down from Canberra. Do you know what he's on today?
Yes, he'll be on just a regular Ant sort of brew. He's sculpted his sideboard plan ruthlessly for the meta, but I think other than that, it's just a pretty stock standard Ant deck.
Okay, so we've got Storm versus Hatebears. There's not too many Hatebears in the main deck. We'll just see how it will go. Brandon, from what I understand, is going to be on the play, so that's always good for the Storm player.
For sure. So we're seeing both of them just go to their draw 7s now. I haven't seen this Abzan Hatebears deck. Is there any notable things happening in there?
There's a few things. Stephen is known for playing a few spicy cards. You can see a main deck Zealous Persecution in there, which from my understanding is to deal with a true name nemesis that you might see. He has Death Rider Knight there, and I believe he does have the Dark Depths combo floating around in there as well.
Cool.
So that's going to be possibly his main plan here against the much faster Ant deck that we've got. Yeah.
We see Brandon possibly trying to hide what he's doing for now, just playing Underground Sea saying go. So at the moment, hiding his deck, I think, is probably a good idea for as long as you can.
And Stephen leads on Swamp into Deathrite, which is obviously going to be something Brandon's going to have to play around, just being careful of exactly what he puts into his graveyard. He does have the Past in Flames in hand there, so that's obviously one of the main lines available to the deck.
Yeah, so we see end of turn Brainstorm. Did you see what he picked up?
I did not see it exactly.
That's
he's
all right.
Still got the Past in Flames in hand, which I would expect to go back into the deck, as it's not usually something that you want to keep around that long.
Yeah, for sure. He seems to be keeping it in hand for now. It sort of proves the resiliency of the Ad Nauseum Tendrils deck over the Tez, the Epic Storm, which is your other Storm variant. This one, a little bit more resiliency. You can sort of sculpt your hand, play a lot of hand disruption to get yourself going, and
it's a lot nicer in terms you've got just less colors that you're trying to play with at the same time, which is very nice. Now, for those of you who don't know, Ad Nauseum Tendrils is a combo deck. It uses the Storm mechanic, which means that for each time you've played a spell before this, you get to copy that spell again. He's going to try to cast a spell called Tendrils of Agony, which says that you gain 2 life and your opponent loses 2 life. And then try to copy that 10 times for the spell that he's played, every spell he's played before that as well.
For sure. So still kind of holding back what he's playing. I know Brandon's, like most Ant decks, he's decided to cut green completely. Now, green was great in previous matchups for Abrupt Decay and Xantid Swarm. Now, Xantid Swarm's just it's just 1 green. And it says 1/4, I think, and it just says whenever Xantid Swarm attacks, your opponent cannot cast spells for the rest of the turn. Now, Ad Nauseum would use this to stop a control player from attacking him. Now, because Miracles is kind of not around as much, it's not exactly needed.
That's right. So Brandon casts a Gitaxian Probe for life in this case, meaning that he gets to see exactly what's in Stephen's hand, and he lays down a Grimflayer, Zealous Persecution, a Fatal Push, Knight of the Reliquary, and a Maze of If. So there's not a lot that Stephen's doing on his side of the table that Brandon really cares about at this point.
It's quite possible with the plays that Stephen is making so far that Brandon wouldn't know what he would be on, and that's probably still now. He sees a bunch of cards and he goes, I'm not sure about this. But
that is true to some extent, but there's not a lot of decks in the meta game which are going to be playing that particular mana base along with all those cards. And at this point, the fact that Brandon hasn't led a creature out there yet means that you can possibly assume what he's on, and that Lotus Petal would definitely give it away.
Yeah, that would tighten it up. I think after seeing the cards in his hand, Brandon was just looking for something that wasn't a force of will. So he saw his hand, he said, all right, well, you're not really doing anything this turn except for Deathrite Charm and activation, so I can play around that. And we might just see him attempting to go off now. We see both of them opting in to count the storm. Oh, Steve's decided against it, so...
And Stephen is just living up those death rights here and hoping that they are going to be relevant.
For sure. So we see straight up Lion's Eye Diamond, Dark Ritual. We've got a lot of mana already. Now, Graham, that's an Infernal Tutor there. What's the what does that card do?
So that card lets you reveal a card in your hand, and when you're casting it, and you get to go and search your library for another copy of it. However, if you don't have any cards in your hand, or what they call Hellbent, then you get to go and search for any card. And Brandon gets to use a combination with Lion's Eye Diamond of discarding your hand, which means that you can pretty much always use the effect where you will have no cards in hand.
Yeah, wonderful. So he's possibly, he might even be searching up the past in flames. Like, he hasn't quite got the storm count yet, so it's a little bit awkward. He needs to, oh, here we go. All right, so that's pretty easy. So this is Ad Nauseum. This is the first half of the Ad Nauseum Tendrils deck namesake. Would you like to go through what Ad Nauseum does for those who don't know?
Sure. So it's a 5-cost instant. It lets you reveal cards from the top of your library until you choose to stop. Every time you flip a card, you lose life equal to its converted mana cost. And this is just going to fill Brandon's hand right up again until he has the relevant spells that he needs in order to be able to combo off. Now, that Past in Flames there is quite a big chunk of damage, but it also means that he can use the LED to cast it from his graveyard, because it does have the flashback ability there as well.
I feel for Brandon at the moment. I'm not sure if this is what he needs. He's on 5 health right now after taking the taking the damage off Ad Nauseum. Now, he doesn't have any 5-cost mana, so he's possibly... except for 1. Flipping over the dark position.
Not what Brandon wanted to see there at
all.
Oh
my god. So he was definitely making that plan. I apologize to the audience. I didn't know he was playing that one of Dark Petition, which I believe is 5 mana, right?
That's 5 mana. Yeah. And both of the players are going to board now. So from here, Stephen's going to be looking at bringing in some more hate creatures. So cards like Easter Swan Cannons, for example. I know he's got some Thalias in the main deck. He's also got the spicy card Campbell Consul of Allocation in the board. Now, essentially, what that card's going to do is the reverse of what Brandon is wanting to do. It says, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, that player loses 2 life and gains 2 life. I know he's got a copy of that there, and he's going to possibly have that out as soon as turn 2. Now, he's also bringing in Aether Swan Canoness, which allows him to limit the number of non-artifact spells played each turn to 1. He's bringing in Leyline of the Void, which will remove Brandon's graveyard, and then finally the card Sanctum Prelate.
Yep, I saw Sanctum Prelate in there. For the for those who don't know, it's a 1 white creature. I just believe it's a 2/2, but it says when it enters the battlefield, you can choose a number, and then your opponent can't cast spells of that converted mana cost. Now, essentially a Chalice of the Void for D&T. Now, Stephen being on a just white at all, like white Hatebears, he's able to access all of the absolute taxing effects that D&T usually has access to. So you're definitely used to seeing a D&T deck play Aether Swan Canoness in the board. That's very normal, and sometimes even Sanctum Prelate main board. But we can definitely see he's possibly siding out a bunch of cards that he doesn't want.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so when Brandon said we're going to see probably a few spot removal spells, so things like either Fatal Push or Disfigure, just to deal with the bears on the other side of the table, is what we quite commonly see from Ad Nauseum, along with some bounce spells to return any relevant hate pieces back to Stephen's hand.
For sure. So we have, on Brandon's side from memory, because I saw his list not too long ago, but he definitely has just sort of Echoing Truths, and then the Hope of Gurapur, which is very similar to Xantid Swarm, but it's from Kaladesh, I believe, and it's a artifact. It's a flying artifact, and it says sacrifice Hope of Gurapur until your next turn. Target player who is dealt combat damage by Hope of Gurapur this turn can't cast non-creature spells. Pretty similar to Xantid Swarm.
It's only a once-off use, so
Yeah.
you have to sacrifice it when it has its effect. It also has power, which is a little bit of a small upgrade from the 0 power Xantid Swarm.
That's right. Xantid Swarm being a 0/4 from my recollection, but trying to
it's actually a 0/1.
It's a 0/1. That's not good. So yeah, I think being able to just do that one-off for your control matches seems pretty good. Now, we saw Steven sort of playing around with those Leyline of the Void. Did he end up bringing those in?
I'm not 100% certain. We'll probably see in the next couple of games. Usually, Ad Nauseum Tendrils has two main lines of play that it wants to go down. The first one is what we saw in that game, which is playing an Ad Nauseum, filling your hand up with lots and lots of cards and being able to go off. And then the second line is the Past in Flames line, where they put all the cards in their graveyard instead, and then cast Past in Flames and cast them all again. Both of them have their advantages, and it's a lot of the flexibility from those two lines, which gives it its power.
Yeah.
Essentially, by bringing in the ley lines, it means he would be cutting off access to one of those lines.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I suppose there's a lot of cards that Steven wants to side out, so it's possibly reasonable. Now we're seeing Brandon mull to 6. I didn't quite see what was in his hand, but obviously not good enough.
I think I saw 2 ley lines in Steven's hand there, so it looks like he did decide to go ahead and keep that there.
Okay, seems reasonable. If anything, it shuts him off from half of his game plan, like you said before, so that seems completely reasonable. Now we also got
Grimflayer. We have
there's a Campbell in there as well.
Campbell I mentioned before, that's right. And I think I saw a Grimflayer as well, which is a Pseudo Brainstorm to some extent for those people who don't play blue. And just slams those immediately down on the table.
We see a Swords to Plowshares as well. Possibly, it's bizarre that he...
Interesting that you would keep that in. There is obviously the Empty the Warrens plan, but
okay, sure.
Most of the time it wouldn't be something I'd be looking to keep too many of in the post board.
For sure. And we actually see a foil Kaya Ghost Assassin, which I love. I love this card. I love it. It's a Planeswalker 2 white-black, and it has the 0 tick of exile it and up to 1 target creature, and then you can return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of your upkeep, and you lose 2 life. So you bounce the creature, and then you can downtick to lose and gain, and then you can make an opponent discard a card and you draw a card. So I had to get a little refresher there because I saw it. I saw it when it came out in Conspiracy, and I went, this is going to be big because its loyalty will stay at 5 if you want it to, but it didn't quite see much play, so hopefully we get to see a little bit come out of here.
That's right. Now, Brandon has led off on his turn. He's played Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, and Lotus Petal already, and LED immediately going for Infernal Tutor. And so he's...
So it's just Ad Nauseum from here, right? So
he's got 2 mana in pool and then the extra 3, so he's going straight for the Ad Nauseum and just casting it. He's got no mana in hand, though. Has not played land yet this turn, I believe.
Is that Empty the Warrens?
That is Empty the Warrens instead, so he's just going to fill his side of the board and hope it gets there.
Swords to Plowshares really doing this role from here, getting rid of one of those goblin tokens. What's our Storm count at? We got 6?
I believe he mulled to 6 and everything but the land was a fill, but we can just count those goblins anyway. It looks like it was the full 7 spells that we got there.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's
so
right.
We're going to see 14 on here.
So Steven now dealing with a 2-turn clock. Let's see what he does on his side.
And it's a good Empty the Warrens plan when the token table runs out of tokens.
They're now playing a zombie instead. The 1/1 zombie token.
Yeah. I assume that zombie is actually a goblin and not some sort of... Yeah. Oh, wonderful. And so this is interesting. He might not... He possibly even bought out any Wrath effects that he has. Got a worm on the back. Okay, just for clarity, that is definitely a goblin. Now, turn 1, 14 goblins, pretty good.
I don't think Stephen actually has an answer to this in his deck at the moment, so he may be the scoop. He looks like he is thinking about what exactly he may have available there.
Sure.
And
there's some counting in his head. Yeah, let's scoop it up. Yeah, sure.
So we've got the two different modes that the Ad Nauseum deck can play. We've just seen the turn 1 and then the more slower, grindy game that he played on the first game as well.
Yep. And for those who don't know, Empty the Warrens is 3 and red, and it just says put 2 goblin tokens, 2 1/1 goblin tokens onto the battlefield. So he did that, and Storm was 6, so it had that Storm ability, so he was able to make 14 goblins turn 1, which is pretty good.
Yeah, so I don't believe there'll be much change to the sideboards after that game, so they're probably just shuffling up. While we've got you, though, we would love you to subscribe or even follow us on Twitch. We're also available on YouTube, General Games Australia, I believe, and you can follow us on Facebook as well. And we've got General Games Oz, I should say. And we've got lots of this content available. So there's YouTube videos of other Legacy events that we've run, and we try to stream whenever we possibly can as well. And we'll let you know about that on Facebook.
And I believe the info is in the Twitch description. So if you need more information, you can just definitely go there. Now we see our opponents going for game 3. Hopefully this is a pretty long one. I'd like to see a lot of interaction in the Storm matchups, but we're looking at a hand from Brandon with Lion's Eye Diamond, Brainstorm, Cabal Therapy, Ponder, and a Chain.
Not a land?
Not a land.
Not a land. And Stephen on his side has the Aether Swan Cannons, but I believe he's only running 1 land over that side. So he's looking at it carefully, but I think it might be a throwback from both sides in this case.
Yeah, it looks like it. So I think Brandon just playing the correct way, possibly training for Eternal Masters and waiting for his opponent to decide before he says whether or not to mull. But look, even on the draw, you just don't keep that hand. Yeah, I see both of them mulling to 6.
Stephen's side deck, of course, as we can see, has a lot of foils in it, which sometimes makes it a little bit harder for it to view on camera, but we'll still try and provide you with our best commentary we can anyway.
But dang, does it not look beautiful? Having those... That foil Kaya.
You just want it for yourself?
Yes. I want to see it played. I want to see it today.
And we've got notice from Twitch that there is actually a combo with Kaya. I'm not 100% certain what it is, but if anyone feels like filling us in, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, definitely leave a comment if you know the combo. Look, if I were to make a guess, it'd be bouncing your own Marit Large token. Because then it gets to come back, right? That's how magic works.
That's definitely how it works. It hasn't changed zone at all.
Yeah, so look, you can bounce someone else's Marit Large token. That's pretty cool. But yes, definitely leave a comment in the Nilo82, I believe you're on it. Of course. So we have Nilo saying Steve has a crazy combo with it, and Nilo wants to see it on cam. So let's see if we can see it on cam.
So Stephen interestingly has left a Mazavith in his hand. I'm not 100% certain what that's doing there post board, but he's decided to keep that hand. So we'll see what we go to, and Brandon going down to 5
for sure. We also see, sorry for the delayed response, Griselbrand draw 7, but if you're referring to game 2, we just saw Brandon empty his hand and cast Empty the Warrens for Storm is 7. So Storm is 6, and then the extra copy of Empty the Warrens. So
Brandon leads on keeps the no-lander with the Gift Probe. He's bottomed, and we'll see if he draws a land. He did not, so he passes turn with no play. He can't feel good about that.
All right.
And Stephen fetches twice and just drew a Gadok Teague, so
yeah,
the rub-ins, as one might say.
Yeah, so Gadok Teague, I know that he's a good elf pick as well, because is he an elf advisor? Oh, no, Kifkin advisor. He's a green and white, and your opponents cannot cast non-creature spells that cost 4 mana or more. And
I believe it may be all spells, not just...
non-creature spells. So we have that as well as just a snap side in. Good thing it works in elves is sort of a green sun zenith. You can get it with that, but we see here him just being very happy that it was, and we see it very happy just to be able to drop it on turn 2.
So he follows it up with a Grimflayer here. So that card has +2/+2 if you've got 4 different card types in graveyard, and whenever it hits a player, you have the option of putting up to 3 cards from the top of your library on the bottom of your into your graveyard, I should say. Sorry.
An absolute banger coming out of Eldritch Moon. Now, it's very nice to see a couple of newer set cards coming into Legacy. Now, Grimflayer really finding its space in as a sort of a bug flayer deck, and using it as sort of as 8 of Tarmogoyf, swinging for 6 most times. Getting pretty good. Getting pretty big.
Stephen swings in and he sees a Sanctum Prelate, a Abrupt Decay, and a 3rd card.
The Sanctum being good, Abrupt Decay not great.
And a Sword of Fire and Ice, it looks like that is, because he's got the Stoneforge package. And the reason he's binned all of those is he just needs his 3rd land at the moment to make sure the deck's operating properly.
Sure. So that's the Sword of Fire and Ice as as one of the cards in there. Okay, so it looks like we're also tracking Delirium on Steven's side. Possibly a wise move. It's like definitely a kind one.
He does have it as a 4/4 at the moment because he's got those 4 different card types: artifact, creature, instant, and land in his graveyard. So Brandon is slowly sculpting his hand. He looks like he's getting quite close to going off from what I can see here, and leads on an end of turn Chain of Vapor and untaps.
The fun thing about Chain of Vapor is very good for Storm decks because it only costs 1 mana, but it says your opponent can choose to sacrifice a land and bounce one of your permanents, non-land permanents. Brandon not usually having any non-land permanents, so it pretty good card.
There's a few tricks you can sometimes play yourself if you're running a little bit low on Storm count. If you've got a Lotus Petal or an Lion's Eye Diamond, you can bounce those back to your hand
for sure.
Just to make sure that you can make sure you've got maximum Storm count before going off.
For sure.
So from Brandon's side of the table, we've got 2 rituals, Lion's Eye Diamond, an Infernal Tutor, and can't see the last card.
Rain of Filth.
So he plays Rain of Filth. So Rain of Filth allows you to sacrifice a land to add a black mana. So now all his lands have an extra resource, and it just allows him to have that much extra mana available to himself.
Yeah, I think as soon as we see the Storm dice coming out, it's this turn or nothing, especially with that Rain of Filth.
That's a very big Storm deck. Storm dice, I should say.
Yeah. All right, so we see Cabal. So we're definitely at threshold at this point. So adding 5 to his pool.
That's right. And the dice at the lower side of the screen seems to be tracking. Oh no, sorry, that's not right. I thought one was tracking mana. They're not. The black dice in the middle is tracking mana, and the one on the bottom is tracking Storm.
Okay, so I think we're just working out between Brandon and Steve. Brandon counting his own Storm. So we have the black dice in the middle actually counting the Storm. I think we're just confirming what we're at now, which I believe is 5. I see
5 Storm and 6 black mana, and then that looks like it might be an extra 3 red mana, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So Infernal Tutor definitely going for Rite of Flame at this point. Past in Flames.
Going for Past in Flames. Rite of Flame is usually only played in the Epic Storm deck, and he's just going to cast that straight from his hand for 4. Not a lot that Steven can do on his side of the table at instant speed for interaction, though.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that Gaddock Teague was the best that we could do at this point, but unfortunately, it might not get him there. Now, we could see Brandon possibly. Just quickly while I get there, Gristlebrand, game 1, Brandon had the Ad Nauseum going, and he said, "I've got 5 life left. It's very unlikely that I pull over 1 card that could kill me," and he accidentally ripped over that Dark Petition. So unfortunately, it definitely left him feeling very salty afterwards.
And so he puts down the tendrils there, and the handshake is extended.
Wonderful. So that was the games from both of them. Stephen definitely putting down some big creatures, which is fantastic. Some versatile creatures. Definitely getting that Gaddock Teague would have been fantastic. But unfortunately, the Chain of Vapor got Brandon there.
Yeah, it looks like Stephen just needed a little bit of extra pressure beyond that 1 Hatebear, just like 2, just to make sure that he can force Brandon to play the fair game rather than what the deck's actually trying to do.
Yeah, and see them siding out cards now. We having that. What do you think about getting that Sanctum Prelate? Because he put it in the bin with put it in the bin with Grimflayer, but I mean, it was probably too little too late. But
yeah, he just didn't have the land, and I think he needed the land to make sure that he could cast anything else relevant in his hand at that point.
Yeah, so that's very unfortunate. We did see a couple of dud cards from Steven's side with the Swords to Plowshares and possibly even the Mother of Ruins not doing a huge amount of work, but I guess you have to make that trade-off when you have all these fantastic Hatebears that beat those fair decks. They're going to beat those fair decks.
And anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and we will see you back here at the beginning of the next round.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.